Hey everyone, my name is Rooster and welcome back to Mechabellum. And in today's video I want to highlight tarantulas yet again. I kind of hate to admit it, but this unit has really grown on me and it's one of my favorite ones to play at the moment. On the bar, I'm currently running range, spider mines, mech rage and HE, and I hope that in today's replay I can convince you to also give these a try. Anyway, let's get right into the action. So here we are. Now my opponent for today will be none other than one of 401's strongest players, Sarah. And having a look at the packs here, for me it's going to be a choice between Quick Supply with the Stormcallers or Rhino Spec. Reason being is that these two actually do start with chaff. And well, Stormcallers are quite powerful in general. Not necessarily as good into aggro, but usually a solid pick. But this video is all about spiders, and I really felt like giving these guys a try. So my opponent goes for the Steel Ball Fang pack here, and this is not necessarily the best matchup for me. Spiders tend to struggle against Steel Balls. They're a little bit too tanky for them to kill, and Steel Balls do really like killing these mid-sized single targets. So I was expecting a push here, but in fact my opponent sets up for a more long-range fight. And this is also why you see me positioning a little bit more forward in the center. That way I would be able to pull Sarah's units no matter whether they would be on the left side or the right side. Now, of course, that isn't the case, but that is why I set up in the way that I do. Another thing to keep in mind is that spiders don't have that much range, right? Only 75 base, and even though they do have range enhancement available, they will still be well below the range of things like marksmen, phoenixes, sledgehammers. I mean, really, most units you will encounter, arc lights as well, will have more range available as we enter the mid and late game. So playing a bit more forward here, I might be able to transition in a bit of a more aggressive playstyle if I need to. Opponent goes for double arc light here, and I decide to go for double crawler. I didn't really want to go into marksman just yet because I didn't trust level 1 marksman to be able to DPS these steel balls down effectively, so I would have rather gone to something like Phoenix on a round 2. And of course I can always wait for a unit drop to give me a better unit, right? So round 1 here. The fact that my opponent started all the way in the back means that he doesn't pressure me as much. So you can actually see that my tarantulas here are having a decent time against the spiders. One of them does get locked on the right side, but has enough hit points to be able to survive. Will go down to the arc light, but on the left side things are looking much better for me, as this spider has managed to avoid the DPS from the steel balls and will now be killing that arc light on the left and making its way over to the tower. If I can get this debuff, I might be able to still win this. Arclight is starting to hit it, but doesn't quite have the DPS in time, and now with that debuff, my Tarantula manages to kill the Arclight, the remaining Fangs, and because of that, it actually gains enough EXP to level. Now this is a really good scenario for me to be in. Round 2, we immediately get unit reinforcements, and right away, I'm thinking about Stormcaller and I'm thinking about Phoenix. I already have Chaff Clear, so Fire Badger doesn't really seem that logical, and Rhinos into Steel Balls, I don't really think that's all that good. I was relatively confident my opponent would go for Stormcaller here, as I do have a lot of Fangs, and, well, Tarantulas are big targets and hard to miss as well. So, because of that, even though Stormcaller would be good for me as well, as my opponent also has a bunch of Fangs, and the Arclights can be easy to hit too, I thought Phoenix here is alright as well. It's actually good into all of the other unit reinforcements, and it would mean that I probably don't go into a mirror. Right? I kind of want to try and force a bit of an imbalance here, because I thought that the Stormcallers were better for him anyway. And I didn't really like the idea of trying to go into that mirror knowing that I would probably lose. So instead I go Phoenix. The benefit as well is that if for some reason my opponent decided to pick Phoenix too, I would have some more solid anti-air. I decided to go for 2 Fangs here on the outsides. The reason is that I have played a bunch of games against Sarah previously, and they really like to go for Wasps early on. So this time around I thought, you know what, I'm just gonna buy those Fangs on the flanks to make sure that I don't get cheesed. It doesn't end up happening, so in that scenario I guess it's not as good. since the fangs don't really provide too much on the second round. But, you know, my opponent went for chaff here as well, in addition to another Stormcaller pack. The distraction certainly doesn't hurt. Tarantula here did a good job on the left side. I did manage to upgrade that. But, well, the Stormcallers, as expected, are performing really well for my opponent. Already 35,000 damage dealt in the first round. I do have my Felixes left alive, but with a whole pack of Fangs alive here on the right side, I don't think I'll be able to come out on top in round 2. We do manage to take out the high-level Arclight, which means some decent EXP goes to the Phoenixes. But yeah, the Fangs here will be able to get rid of that final Phoenix, as it does actually clean up a good amount of Stormcallers. And I would say that, yeah, this early game, neither of us is getting very far ahead in terms of tempo. This game might go long. Underground Threat is available here. And so is Deployment Module, Redeployment, and Photon Emission. Considering that both of us are relatively far away, or at least we're not on the line, I didn't think Photon Emission was that valuable. However, with both Deployment Module and Redeployment available, I decided to go for the Redeployment. Because I thought, well, I am Rhino spec. Maybe I'll be able to make something work. Maybe my opponent picks a Redeployment, and then it could be nice for me to be able to move around my units. And I was also thinking, maybe I want to move this Tarantula out of the way, since it's facing this high-level Stormcaller, right? So I wasn't quite sure what to pick here. Maybe I should have gone Underground Threat. But yeah, let's see if I manage to make any use of it. Opponent Underground Threat here in the back of my battlefield. I decided to pick up 2 more spiders. It's also why I didn't pick up Underground, because I was relatively confident I'd be able to deal with this. I make sure to put them kind of on the outsides here and a bit further back than the spiders in the middle. That way they're able to cover the flanks, and they'll also arrive in later, which can be useful if I decide to go for spider mines at some point. So that you basically have these different waves of spider mines running in. I also pick up a 3rd deployment, a crawler here in the middle. And I place it in a way where it should split up. Or at least that was the plan. I guess it doesn't quite. Should have put it a bit more in the middle. The idea here was for it to split up, so that the Stormcallers would miss their first couple salvos, which they do. You can see my spider here did turn, and it will be able to get rid of that Underground Threat, so that won't be a problem this turn. Spider here, though, kind of getting overwhelmed, gets locked on by those steel balls and dies very quickly. However, this time around, I managed to win the right side. Well, I say that. I still lose, but I don't go down quite as quickly. My opponent did get his Farseer this turn, so things are not looking too good for me. And those Stormcallers are certainly being a pain to deal with. And so suddenly, I take a lot of damage there. Over 1,000 damage taken on round 3, and it's sending me down to 3,300. Round 4 shows up, and with Super Supply being offered, it's generally a must pick. If you're above 3k hit points, definitely. If you're below and you feel like you really need the tempo, sometimes you might have to skip it to have the money available. But here, I think, well, if my opponent picks it, which they do, I won't be able to compete in the late game, and I think that that's where I will have to prove my advantage. I don't think I'll be able to quickly win in this scenario. I get my Rhino though, so this turn it's my power spike, and I decide to pick up some Stormcallers here after all, since my opponent did invest into even more Fangs here on the outsides and even some late Fangs in the back. The Rhino, I decide to put it on the flank. Reason being that I wanted to avoid the steel balls as much as possible. I think that it will do a decent job against everything else. So as long as it can run past them, then I should be in an okay spot here. I also decide to pick up the defense enhancement. Get a little bit of extra hit points here. It benefits my tarantulas. It benefits my Rhino as well. And it can make a difference on some of the crawlers. This turn, things are looking a bit better. I mean, steel balls still lock on. They did manage to pick up that level. But The Phoenixes taking care of those steel balls even after they've killed my tarantula. Left side, you can see the Rhino is doing a good job as well. And my Phoenix has managed to survive, take out the Farseer on the left. This tarantula absolutely crushing. This time around, it doesn't die as quickly as it had the Rhino to tank for it. And I believe I should be coming out on top. It kind of depends here on how much these fangs can do. But with the debuff, I don't think they'll quite manage to take out my Phoenixes. And so on round 4, I'll at least get a default win with the air unit still alive and the anti-air from my opponent being gone. Here we go, just cleaning up those last Stormcallers. And so round 4, I do come out on top. That's very nice. If I lost even more hit points, especially when I'm still waiting for that super supply to pay off, I would not have been in a good position. Round 5, we get unit reinforcements again. Some very early unit reinforcements. I see quadruple marksmen here. And honestly, I decide to pick it up because the marksmen are so good into most of those other units being offered. And the other units just generally don't perform too well into these boards, right? The Mustangs would struggle very much against the Stormcallers and the Arclights, especially with HE being picked up from my opponent this turn. The Wraith would struggle against the Marksman. And the Scorpion, I mean, it could have been okay, but I think it would be a similar scenario there. Similar story. As my opponent has a lot of chaff that the Scorpion could get stuck on, and I think in the long range fight that we're having, it wouldn't necessarily have the best time. I decided to pick up Marksman as well, because I just think it's such a strong pack. And if I had to keep going into Phoenix, I would still need to use a lot of deployments, whereas here I just get 4 deployments, right, immediately. And even though my Phoenix has been doing really well, I think the transition into Marksman here makes more sense. I decide to pick up 2 more Stormcallers, and I click HE as well. And I pick up range on these tarantulas to try and keep them alive and have them chaff clear for a bit longer. My opponent goes for range on the Marksman, so he does have that long range advantage currently. And you will notice that I put these Stormcallers on the line. Next turn we'll be able to have a look at them, but they're actually... I'm making sure that the dead zone, right, the red zone they have where they can't shoot, covers a good portion of the flank. And the reason for this is that way my opponent can't put crawlers or anything very close to them, as it won't distract them. Stormcallers this time around, as I did add much more, are doing a fantastic job. But we could say the same about my opponent, and with these range marksmen, you can see that he was winning out on that portion of the fight, taking out my tarantulas, taking out my marksmen. These middle Stormcallers, by the way, level 3. It's something that we've been seeing a lot of from certain players, where previously it wasn't very common to level up Stormcallers, because the idea was, well, a high-level Stormcaller gets intercepted just as easily as a low-level one. We've kind of realized that it's not that easy to get interception on the board, right? Some of the best interception units we have, like War Factory, is very expensive. And missile interceptors, while effective, if they get taken, you lose a lot of resources because you have to rebuy them. Where your opponent just gets to keep these Stormcallers on the board perpetually. Now here, I decide to range my Marksman on turn 6 to try and match my opponent. Opponent picks up some Wasps, which I can see being a bit of an annoyance for me, as I only have Marksman. At the same time, though, I have a good amount of Fangs and a decent amount of late Fangs as well. Here I decide to go for Spider Mines, as well as picking up 2 Missile Interceptors and 2 more Tarantulas. So we're really like starting to make this front line of Tarantulas here, and I might slowly start to make a back line of Tarantulas as well. So we create these different chaff waves, right? Not just from the Fangs and the Crawlers, but also from the Spider Mines that get spawned every 15 seconds. opponent here, by the way, decides to go for sledgehammers and also ranges his arc lights. The sledgehammers I don't really understand. I don't think sledgehammers are good into Tarantula. It's actually one of the matchups that they kind of do like to play. And yeah, you can see that I get rid of them relatively quickly. And now you can see the spider mines are on the right, running in, getting rid of that arc light for me. Keep in mind, these scale with levels. So the higher level my tarantulas, the tankier these mines are. And HE Stormcallers don't necessarily like dealing with them. Marksmen, while they do one-shot them, need to waste a bullet, and they have a relatively long reload time. And arc lights are probably the best suited to deal with it, but oftentimes they will still require 2 shots if the spiders are leveled. Again here, round 6, very close round. I managed to win the right side, but my left side is still collapsing, and here my opponent takes down one of those missile interceptor turrets. And so you can see I'm losing 100 here for a round that I don't even win, it looks like. This high-level marksman, yep, does lock on and get rid of my marksman. And so now I'm down to 2,500 hit points as we enter round 7. Here, Mobilized Battleship Barrier, Nuke, and Assault Vulcan are available. I don't think Mobilized Battleship would be very useful for both of us. We have quite a resilient board against it. Barrier is a good item, but I don't think I want to buy any giants. Nuke, however, seems relatively tempting, especially as we are now starting to make profit from that super supply card. And I feel like I need to regain some tempo. I decide to pick it up. My opponent doesn't. So they will be ahead in money. But I just hope that here I managed to get rid of one side of the board and kind of buy myself some time. Because I do think I scale relatively well as I keep getting more tarantulas. We're now already up to 8. I decided to go for triple shields here. I was expecting my opponent to perhaps go for nuke as well to try and close things out within the next 2 turns. My opponent, interestingly, is loaning and went for more sledges with field maintenance and went for elite on the arc lights. Again, I don't fully understand the sledges here. They get outranged currently by the spiders, and it's not like the spiders lack damage to be able to take down level 1 sledgehammers with field maintenance. Might have been a different story if they were, say, level 2, level 3. But when the spiders outlevel these sledges, it's really not a problem whatsoever. An opponent here, importantly, does not shield. The underground threat is back off cooldown, but it's not really that useful. And the nuke, yep, just gets rid of that entire left side there. And things are looking quite good for me, I have to say. My marksman here also just one-shot the sledgehammers anyway, right? So I'm not exactly sure what the field maintenance was supposed to do. We're now overpowering the board, trying to get to that left turret, grab ourselves a debuff, which does come through. One of the mines there, exploding and getting the debuff. And so we now walk in towards our opponent and deal a lot of damage thanks to the nuke, sending my opponent down to 1,700 all of a sudden. Really happy with that nuke pick. Sometimes it's a bit of a gamble, but here it paid off. Advanced power system and portable shield look like really good items or cards to pick here. And I think here I should probably go for the advanced power system because the spiders and the spider mines can really benefit from the extra speed, right? Now we're getting towards the late stages of the game, and that's where spiders can start to really fall behind because they just can't match the range of some of these units, right? The arc lights, the marksmen. So the one thing that you can try and leverage is that speed. The fact that they do produce those spider mines. And what you'll see me do here is I buy even more spiders to try and get more value out of that spider mine tech that I did click. And I even pick up the third tech, Mech Rage, for even more speed, increasing that speed by 4. We got another 3 from the advanced power system. You see that here I'm going to loan as well, as I saw that my opponent was loaning last turn. and click the temporary range and speed on top of it, which means that now my spiders are moving at 18 meters a second. And I'm not even talking about the spider mines here, which should be walking at 27, if I got it correct. Yeah, they're very, very fast. The left side here not looking too good for me. This Farseer is actually being a real menace. Level 2 Farseer just completely destroying all of my units on that side. Middle is looking really good for me though. My opponent definitely doesn't have too many units there. Although these Arclights with Elite are kind of just one-shotting my level 1 Tarantulas. I do have this level 3 left in the middle. It's now getting rid of these Stormcallers, or at least trying to. As it kind of fails. My opponent did put down a lot of missile interceptors that turn. I managed to take out 2 from the looks of it. But as I get distracted, all my marksmen are taken out. And luckily for me, the final Stormcaller dies there, so I don't lose too many shields, and I do keep a couple missile interceptors again. This is quite important, right? Like, keeping these on the board. Not having to reinvest into them. Make sure to level up all my units here, get the levels on the marksman, get the levels on the spiders. Both of them, well, the spiders scale with levels here anyway because they already have spider mines, and the marksman can scale with levels if I do decide to pick up that elite marksman down the line. Opponent here now does pick up the elite marksman himself. Level 4 marksman. Level 4 Arclights. Picked up the improved firepower control system, just like me. I decided to put it on my highest level Tarantula. He decides to put it on his highest level Arclight. Opponent, by the way, still keeping these steel balls from round 1, which is relatively surprising. Did pick up that item, right? Where I went for advanced power system last turn, he went for that portable shield. And I finally get to clicking my final tech on the spiders. High explosive ammo has now been clicked, and this is a really, really good tech against these, not just the chaff. It works pretty well against, obviously, crawlers and fangs, and even shielded fangs. But it does really well into things like sledges and steel balls as well, as it usually will splash onto multiple ones. And I mean, if we have a quick look here at how quickly these spiders are shooting, it's quite impressive, really. Just absolutely blasting down these steel balls. Like, look at the damage. They're not doing too poorly, and you can see that this high-level Tarantula with the item is top on damage in my team. Firing so quickly. Left side again, not looking too great for me, but this time around I managed to get rid of that Farseer. And I also managed to get rid of a Arclight just in time, trading it for my high-level marksman. Right side is looking decent, but I just lack like a couple marksmen. Getting stuck on these Stormcallers yet again though, because I'm running in front of all of my shields and my interceptors, I get to keep them. And I think this is really valuable for me. If I had lost all of these shields and lost my missile interceptors, I think it would have been much, much worse for wear. So the speed here definitely helping me out. Now here again, I decide to... We got 3 units. My opponent picks up the 2 blue Scorpions. I decided to go for the high-level Sabertooth and sell it, allowing me to have a lot of resources. And I'm using it now to grab myself even more spiders, elite recruiting them. We're loaning, we're getting the temp speed, the temp range. And I mean, look at this board of spiders. Still have 1,050 resources left, so I decide to also give elite marksman to my own marksman, matching my opponent. Getting range on my fangs, because my opponent bought those extra wasps last turn and even added another one this turn. Hoping that these will allow me to kill those and make sure my marksmen aren't distracted for too long. And yeah, let's see what we can do here. 1,400 hit points for me, 1,700 hit points for my opponent. And I gotta say, I really love watching these type of spider boards. It's quite satisfying when you get to this stage. And yeah, you just see all of them marching down, creating those spider mines. The spider mines, like, with those red lights glowing, running into the opponent. It is quite something. And this turn, it actually looks really good for me. The middle is completely collapsing for my opponent. The tarantulas somehow managed to stay alive, and because of that, I now get double debuffs. Managing to clean up the outsides. And this might just be enough. It just about is. Minus 291. So the spiders here getting it done. Quite the game. I really enjoyed this one. This was a lot of fun. Spamming these spiders, watching them again, like run down your opponent. We end up with 13 on the board. And yeah, it kind of showcases you, right? They lack range, but you can sometimes make up for it with things like the temp speed from the tower, the mech rage to give even more speed, and then also things like advanced power system can really help out. I think the decision here for me to not invest more into that Phoenix and take that amazing, right, quad level 2 marksman pack and kind of match my opponent here definitely worked out very well. I think for my opponent, the sledgehammers were a bit weird. I don't think these are very good into spiders, especially when they're leveled. When I get that HE, when I get the mech rage, they kind of just get deleted almost instantly. And yeah, the scorpions here just not quite working out. I think they just get outranged at this point and they get stuck a lot, not just on the chaff, but on the spiders as well. And so we managed to take this one home. I hope you enjoyed this. If you've been playing spiders, let me know what you think of them. Do you like it? Do you dislike it? Do you run other techs? Put it down in the comments below. If you liked the video, please leave a thumbs up. If you want to see me play live, go check me out on Twitch. And with that being said, take care, guys, and see you in the next video. Bye-bye.